So my daughter at a young age had some math difficulties. She could count. She could count on her fingers. She could count with Cheerios and things like that at a young age. I decided, because I'm a family physician, to stay at home with the kids. And so my husband worked and I was able to stay home. That's a big blessing for us. So I was working with her in that regard. Around the age of 5 or 6, she had a strep infection. She had pandas. And people might not understand what that is, but it's a pediatric autoimmune neuropsychiatric disorder associated with strep. And it can be associated with other things as well. But at that time, she had sudden onset of anxiety. She had math regression, which I think she had some math difficulties before. She could count, but she couldn't do some other things that even my younger children could do at 4. She was 6 and she couldn't do those. But when she had the pandas, there's definitely a regression in math and some other subjects as well, a lot of anxiety. So at that time, we were homeschooling and I was trying to teach her math. And I thought she was my firstborn. And so I thought that I just couldn't teach. I was just a terrible, so I'm trained in medicine, but I don't know how to teach. And so I just thought I was terrible. So at that point, I taught her kindergarten and it just didn't go well in math. We were doing Right Start Math and we were doing a couple of other different math. We started with that one math program. So I thought maybe she just doesn't learn that way. So at that point, I decided to put her into primary school, and it was a local private school. And they didn't teach her math either. They could not teach her math. So the teacher said, she's doing great, but she couldn't add. She was stuck on the karate skills. They had these little karate skills where they would do the math tables of addition, and she was always on 1. She couldn't go past the 1 and really affected her socially. So at that point, after about 2 years of school, recognizing that I wasn't really the one that couldn't teach her, that she really had a math issue, I pulled her back out, took her back home, and then we started the long process of many math curriculums, lots of anxiety, and we still never really progressed. So that's a little bit of her background of math. So the impact on Hannah socially and academically was huge for not being able to do simple math. Socially, she would do fine at school. So when she was in school, she would have friends and she'd interact great. And then as soon as the report card came out, and they would call everyone to the stage that had an A's, B's, and she would always have a C or D in math. And so she would never be called to stage. And at that point, everybody kind of dropped her. It was really bizarre. She was fine until it was pinpointed that she had a learning disability. So socially, that really affected her. It affected us at home in a huge manner because she was so anxious. I couldn't teach her a math because she had so much math anxiety with me. She could try to learn with the teachers at school, but she wasn't grasping it. And at home, I just didn't understand that she had this difficulty. So I was trying to teach her and she wasn't learning it. We had a lot of frustration. There's a lot of back and forth, anger, everything. And so she has major anxiety, and it made anxiety to every area of her life. So it wasn't just math now. We're talking about anxiety across the board. Plus she had pandas, which is anxious anyway. So it did affect her huge. And then math isn't everything. Playing board games. You can't play a board game because you don't know how to jump. You don't know how to move your character. You don't know how to go to the store and make change. Even at that age, most kids don't know how to make change, but they do start the interaction with it. Reading signs on the road, knowing where to turn, knowing how to tell time, all these little things that we take for granted had huge impact. Talking to friends saying, oh, that was about, a couple months ago. And the friend's like, I think that was like 2 days ago. Just no concept of time and space, and just had a huge impact relationally with other people and with us, just a ton of anxiety. And her brother is a genius. He's a couple of years ahead in math. And so just a lot of tension in that area too. So yeah, profound impacts, mainly in the area of anxiety, I would say. I would say the impact for our family was I'd already decided to stay home to homeschool. I didn't really want to release that. And I had to release her to an actual school system for 2 years to see if they could teach any better. And they couldn't on the math aspect. So that was hard for me to release. And then having to come back home was a huge impact because we had just butting of heads every day on math. And that was causing a lot of strife, profound strife between my daughter. So the daughter-mother relationship suffered greatly in that area. Yeah, I think that was the main thing. It's just and also the constant worrying of wondering how are we going to proceed in this area? How are you going to go through life? How are you going to do things? How are you going to even make it through middle school, high school, and potentially beyond? I don't know what we're going to do. The profound weight that carried that on is a big weight on my shoulders all the time. So. Talking about impacts on the family and how it affected us, I think what we tried to use as a math curriculum also correlates with the impact on family. It's expensive to keep trying different things. And then also worrying about not being an effective teacher. Why is this not coming across? So we tried multiple curriculums. We started with the Bright Start math, then we moved. My son was doing Singapore math. They use that in school. So we did Singapore math for a little bit, which is way too in the head, too hard, mental, too much mental math. And then we moved to just straight Saxon math, and we tried teaching textbooks. We've tried tutoring. We had a private tutor for 2 of them. We had one for a year every day while she was in school, and then another one after school. And I also was trying everything I know how to. There's another one that we did. We tried everything, and we didn't just try it for like a minute. We really tried, but we kept having railroad blocks. I like to explain it like this: like if there's a ruler and there's centimeters, I was like most people. My son could learn in a meter length. He just a meter, like he just could do it. My other son could learn in maybe 10 centimeters. I was teaching her in centimeter lengths, and she wasn't getting it. Like place value. I've tried place value for 6 years. I would talk to friends, we're not getting place value. And I've literally done it in every visual, every way I know how to for 6 years. And she's not getting it, including other teachers and tutors. And the tutor that we had, I know I'm jumping ahead, but the tutor we had taught in millimeters, just such increments. And it was so beautiful. I would come into the other room and listen and just start crying because I didn't have the patience. I don't know how this person had the patience to do this. And she could just millimeters and started having breakthroughs. But we tried many curriculums. So how did we find EduBlocks? It was the Lord. I really do believe it was him. But I will say we tried different learning, like brain gyms. We've done many things like that too, and they did help to some degree for learning from a PANDAS perspective. We did a learning program in our state by video, and I can't recall the name of it right now. It doesn't matter, but we tried that for about a year and a half for math, and it didn't really work because it was on a computer and it wasn't interactive and it just wasn't sticking for her. So I think I just was researching one day, praying a lot of prayer and a lot of asking and the Lord. And I actually stumbled across it in my web search, which is amazing to me because I've been looking for things for years. And I don't know how I stumbled across it this time. And I didn't before, but I did. And I knew the value of processing. So my daughter has auditory processing issues too. And I knew the value of processing, visual processing. And I first saw it for the developmental tutor. And I was like, ooh, this is like way cheaper than what I'm doing. And it's hitting on the same topics for these processing issues. So that's where I started with EduBlocks, was online with a developmental tutor for the games. So what made EduBlocks stand out from the other options that we were using at the time was basically, I would have to say the cost was a big factor for me because at that time we'd already gone through multiple curriculums. We've already gone through multiple brain training exercises. We spent thousands and thousands of dollars doing things that helped to a certain degree, but weren't like a panacea by any means. So for the developmental tutor, I was like, this is a deal. It hit on this, like I said, the spatial visual processing, which is a huge issue for her. And it was also in a game form. So it was fun. And I could also have my other 2 children do it at the same time, and it was cost effective. So I had my son that is a genius, having him do it just to make sure we're not missing anything for him or having him have fun. And my other one actually had some processing issues as well. And so he did it. So all three of them were doing it at the same time, and it was enjoyable. So that to me was a no-brainer to try. We started EduBlocks about it's been almost 3 years, I think, for my daughter. The experience with it has, at first to be honest, I was doubtful. I didn't know what it would do. I was hopeful that there might be something. I saw some other videos and they looked to be real people and not fake. So I was like, we should try it. But I had my skepticism. As a physician, I'm always a skeptic. I'm a skeptic at first, always. So my first initial experience I'll talk about my son, because he did the developmental tutor. And he, within a week of using it, he used to build Legos, and he'd build real simple designs. And within a week, he was building huge, elaborate designs with tunnels and all these things. So it just expanded his ability to think in I would have to say, a visual manner that he wasn't having before. So we did that with him for a couple of months. We didn't do it for very long. He didn't need it for very long. My other son, we did it with him too, just for fun. And then for my daughter, I found out that there was a tutoring system. I didn't see that at first. I feel like the developmental tutor definitely helped her, but I knew that she was still having issues with the math. So I contacted the program. The first thing I would like to say is, like, you see a chat box come up and you think it's artificial intelligence, not a real person. These are they're real people. You talk to them and they're humans and they will do anything to help you. They're like it's a family business. It's a real thing. And I just, that first was my first experience of, it wasn't a corporate business that was just trying to take my money. And then I set up with a tutor. And like I said before, my daughter was learning. I had a teacher so incrementally at home and it wasn't working. And the tutor, like I said, I would go in the other room and cry. Like, I literally would just sit there crying. I can't believe that she's starting to grasp place value that she hasn't grasped in 6 years. And then within a month, she was grasping it. She was getting it. And she was making these leaps and bounds. And the tutor told me it's a lot like the Suzuki method, which we were at that time doing violin lessons. We understood the Suzuki method, which is just small increments. And you start building up and it becomes a snowball. And so she told me that's what's going to happen. She's going to have these small little incremental gains that will start snowballing. And what I love about the EduBlocks and my experience with it is that they don't give up, even when I'm sitting there thinking, no, I don't think that's going to be true. I don't think that's going to happen. They don't believe that. They believe that the kid's going to get better, and they'll find any way to teach them to make it make sense. I really can't even put that into words enough for anybody that would watch this to say they will create a way to make sure the kid learns to understand, to grasp something. It's beyond comprehension. I can't even put it into words. So that's my experience, that they don't give up. They believe, there's hope, and there's a snowball effect. And we're 3 years in, and there's huge snowball effects. I waited 3 years to do an interview because I wasn't going to do one after a year even, because I wasn't sure still. And they never stopped doubting that there would be a snowball effect. And it's happened. It's happening. So. Because we homeschool, it's hard for me to have a paper testing to show validation of the results. But I do know she couldn't start 3 years ago. She couldn't subtract in her head. She couldn't count, not even subtract. She couldn't count from 100. It blew my mind because she was doing much more complex math on paper with me, but had to have a lot of help. But when she was with the tutor, she'd ask her simple questions and she could count up to 100, but she couldn't count backwards from 100. And that was at age 12 or 13. Couldn't count backwards, was missing things. So that's where she started. And now she's doing some high school math. I mean, not a lot, but she's definitely doing high school math. So as a 15-year-old, she's gained, 7, 8 years of math in 3 years, but knows it solidly. So that has caused her to have way less anxiety about math. She's not anxious. She thinks math is fun. When she's with the tutor, she's like, I like this. I like math. I never thought I'd hear the words out of her mouth that I like math. That's impossible. She has become less anxious. in all areas of her life. So it's not just math that it impacted. It was really uncanny to me that it was about 6 months in. I was like, she's less anxious in general. That I just didn't see. I didn't understand how much it weighed on her. So the anxiety has gone down tremendously for her, not only in that one arena, but in all arenas. I am not having to butt heads with her personally on this arena for math, which has helped tremendously. So I have a mother-daughter relationship. It's not perfect. She still gets anxious and we get frustrated with each other, but we are able to not have this area in our life that was causing such strife that's hard to even express. So that has helped tremendously for family dynamics. She's much less concerned about her brothers and how they're doing compared to how she's doing because she knows she's progressing. She feels so proud of herself and the confidence has come up. She can play games with us. She can. She's going to be driving soon. I feel like she can do directions. I'm trying to think about making change. I feel like she can have a job. She won't get ripped off by somebody giving them more money than she was given. It's boundless, the changes and the impact that this has made for her life and then also for our home life and our family life. I mean, I still have the weight. This is the thing, and we're still in tutoring right now. So if I'm being brutally honest, I'm still like, I don't know. I mean, but I do trust our tutor that she's going to make it. She's going to make it through high school, and she's likely to make it beyond. I mean, my tutor says the sky's the limit. She's 75% there. She wants to get her to 120%, is what she said. It's like not even 100. She wants 120%. She wants her to be there. And she did say that she's probably the most dyscalculic student that she's ever had. So I'm the extreme. Not everybody's going to be having to do this the same amount that we did. So, but the impact for me is hope, great hope, and way less stress and worry about how are we going to get there. I never thought we'd be here. I never thought we'd be doing high school math at this point ever, did I think. I didn't even think we were going to get through addition, so with place value. So we are at a place that I never dreamt of. And so I can just only pray and I can only hope. And I do have the hope that she's going to do way better than my expectations are low. I know that sounds terrible as a mom. I just haven't had it, but their expectations are high. And so far they've met them. So it's really blown my mind. So it's really taken a huge weight and burden off my shoulders that I can't even tell. The words can't express it. So how would I explain it? I'm so scientific. I'm so scientific. It's hard for me. I want to go into the whole entire audio visual, the spatial reasoning, the sequencing. I want to go through all that stuff. And I tell everybody about Azure Blocks. I tell many people, whether they take me up on it or not is a totally different issue. I think people are just skeptical that something online can help and be really real and valid. But I like to tell people that we've done so many programs of brain training exercises that the developmental tutor is very similar. It just opens the mind in all these different developmental sequences. So it's hard for me to explain to other parents how effective that is until they try it. They have to kind of give it a shot. And it's not that expensive. It's worth trying. So I tell my friends that too. But it really does help them to have brain training. But the tutor aspect of EduBlocks is like having a personal tutor that cares and is very gifted at what they're doing. They don't hire people that aren't good at teaching, whether it's math or English or spelling, because we did do some spelling with one of my kids as well. But they have methodologies that have been proven over time, and they are so caring and almost like a bulldog. I hate to say that, like the bulldogish, like they won't stop. They bite onto something. They keep on going and pressing until they figure out a way to teach something if the kid is having extraordinary problems. But usually they already have a methodology to teach. And so I would explain that to people that it's like having a personal tutor that actually cares. It's not just trying to get your money and that is effective and good at what they do. I did this testimonial because I wanted to. I mean, I waited. I actually waited for 3 years. I kind of wanted to do it a year in because I saw such tremendous. Once Hannah started, even a month in, she was learning place value. that I had taught for 6 years, literally in 1 month, was being taught. And that's including tutors and school systems, everything. At that point, I was like, I'm going to do a testimony. But I was like, I just want to wait because I want to make sure it's really real. It's really effective. And I hadn't seen the snowball effect into other areas. And so we're 3 years in, and just the changes of Hannah, just her anxiety levels going down, the snowball effect taking place, her doing math that I was like, how do I do that? I forgot how to do certain things. you can forget easily on some of these things, but I had to actually have the tutor show me like what to do on this one section I had forgotten. So she's doing it. I was like, ooh, she can do that. She can learn anything. I think she just needs to have the right person teaching her that knows how to teach, because math is so incremental forever until they tap out whenever you decide to. But yeah, I decided to do testimonial because I saw it. I saw firsthand that this has worked. It's worked, and it's powerful, and it's given me such hope. And I want to tell other people that it's real. These are real people, and it's really real, and it really works. And we're not just being paid to do this. Nobody paid me to do anything. I actually volunteered to do the testimony. I want to do it because it's changed our life. It's changed my daughter's life. It's changed her life. I think my life would be okay, but it'd be suffering and I'd have heartache. But her life has opened doors. So that's why I want to share it. I want other people to have open doors. Don't be afraid to give it a shot. I don't know. I just think I don't be afraid to give it a shot. It's not that compared to other modalities that we tried. It's not that expensive. Compared to tutoring, it's way less expensive for that. So I say, if you are having struggles, if you really think that there's no hope and there's no ability to do, or that your kid's not going to do well, or you just feel like you can't, that they're not going to learn, then you should try it. Just try it. What's the harm in trying something? So I think that was my only thing I would say is give it a shot. Give it a shot. Give it a try. And you might really be surprised. You probably will be. I can't say as a doctor that you will be surprised, I think, because that's false hope. But I would say there's a strong likelihood that you'll be very surprised. It's helped so much. And the worst case that they've ever seen is help. So give it a shot.